You are on the other one.
I'm going to ask Attorney Rich to call the roll.
Counselor Picciarelli.
Present.
Counselor Bays.
Present.
Counselor Donato.
Present.
Counselor Falcoff.
Present.
Counselor Palumba.
Present.
Counselor Canellis.
Present.
Counselor Feltner.
Present.
Counselor Woodland.
Present.
And President Sedaris.
Present, thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public forum. It's a sign-up public forum. Nobody has signed up, but is there anyone that would like to speak in the first public forum? Seeing none, I close the public forum and move on to the examination of minutes. Can I get a motion on the minutes of February 26th?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of February 26th as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is President's Report, and I don't have anything under President's Report this evening. Next item on the agenda is presentations of petitions, proclamations, and similar papers and matters. And this is an acceptance of a proclamation regarding Watertown Free Public Library's 150th anniversary. And I'm not going to be presenting the proclamation this evening. I'm going to be presenting it at the event on April 6th, and I'm going to, after I read the proclamation into the record, I'm going to ask Leon to come up and tell us about all the activities related to the 150th anniversary. Whereas Watertown Free Public Library was established on March 31st, 1869, with Solon Whitney as the first librarian. It was housed on the first floor of the town hall, which stood on the corner of Main and Church Streets. The library's permanent location on Main Street was built in 1883, with renovations in 1900, 1934, 1956, 1991, and 2006. And whereas the library's first endowment of $5,000 was established in memory of Asa Pratt by his son Charles in 1888. This fund, still in use in 2019, provides funds to purchase periodicals and was the catalyst to provide a separate reading room for the industrial portion of the community. And whereas the library has proven commitment to serving Watertown's youth, providing dedicated children's services beginning in 1900, and providing dedicated young adult services beginning in 1955, today the library provides exclusive collections, programs, and spaces for children and teens. And whereas the library established Project Literacy in 1987 to provide support for adult learners, since its inception over 30 years ago, it has become a premier resource for English language learners in Watertown and beyond, providing free classes, one-to-one tutoring. In 2018, 31 years after it was initially grant-funded, Project Literacy personnel and core classes were fully budgeted by the town, solidifying its status as an essential library service. And whereas the library values Watertown's history, with a dedicated local history room added in the 2006 renovation under the guidance of Director Leon Cole, the library showcases Watertown's past with a local author collection, art, photographs, and other ephemera that documents Watertown's past. In 2016, the library began highlighting this local history collection with digital displays and access to hundreds of digitized primary sources on the library website. And whereas Hatch Makerspace was established in 2014 as a public workshop to provide creative tools and equipment, as well as instruction on how to use them, first housed at the Arsenal Project, then in a retail space at the residence at Watertown Square, Hatch is a fine example of the library's collaboration with the community, relying on the town budget, local grants, and volunteers. And whereas library staff welcomes and serves all people without consideration of status, wealth, gender, or other identity. In fiscal year 2018, the library welcomed 440,780 visitors, checked out 610,382 books and other items, and answered 48,882 questions. Open 70 hours a week, the library provides collections, facilities, classes, programs, community space, and assistance with the staff that is committed to service. And whereas the library trustees and staff will continue to embrace change and adapt to the needs of its diverse users, maintaining its vital role as a center of the community as it has been for 150 years. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the city known as the Town of Watertown is proud to recognize the 150th anniversary of the Watertown Free Public Library and congratulate the library trustees and staff on the quality of library service and facilities offered to the citizens of Watertown. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the Town of Watertown on this 12th day of March 2019, Mark Sideris. Leon, welcome.
Thank you. Give you these newsletters.
Thank you.
And all the info in them. I hope you don't have to read that again on April 6th.
I'm going to have to read it
That's
again
a
on
lot
April
of-
6th.
Lot of words. But thank you for allowing me to.
And we got it all on one page.
Yes. Thanks for allowing me to let you know about the exciting events happening around our 150th anniversary. On March 31st, 1869, the library opened in the Town Hall building further down Main Street, which also housed the jail. We have come a long way since then, in large part due to the support of the community, the town manager, and the town council. So thank you for helping us to get where we are now. To celebrate, we have some great things going on, which are highlighted in the newsletters that I've just handed out. But just to highlight a few things, to highlight our history, we have a display of historical library photos in the gallery. On our website, we've got a timeline and some blog posts talking about the history. To celebrate libraries in general, we've tied our One Book, One Watertown program this year by reading the library book by Susan Orlean. It's a story about the fire in 1987, which destroyed the Los Angeles Public Library. The author is also going to be making an appearance here as well, the same week as the gala. To celebrate the creativity of the community, we have made a call for art, asking for submissions of artwork inspired by the library or library experiences, and those works will be on display during the month of April. The celebrations will culminate in a party for the community, our gala, to be held on Saturday, April 6th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Everyone is welcome, and we hope that we have a great turnout. And finally, I hope that you had a chance to see the banners that adorn the front of the building. We're also erecting some lamppost banners designed by our top-notch community engagement specialist, Jamie, and we're grateful to the Watertown Savings Bank for the sponsorship of those banners. So thank you again, and hope to see you all on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on the proclamation?
I move that we accept the proclamation.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. The next item is motions, orders, and resolutions, and 7A is a resolution approving excess expenditures for snow and ice removal pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 31D, Mass General Laws. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. On last Thursday, Superintendent Ma had forwarded correspondence indicating that certain budgeted funds for snow and ice removal are or will soon be exhausted. There was a spreadsheet provided with the fiscal year 2019 snow and ice removal budget, as well as expenditures to date. As we've got several weeks of winter weather remaining, it will be necessary that additional appropriation authority be made available. What I'd like to try to do, Mr. President, members of council, is kind of speak to Superintendent Me's correspondence for the folks here and folks at home, In Superintendent Me's correspondence dated March 6, he stated, in total this season, we have managed 20 separate snow and ice events totaling 33 inches of accumulation. Our area average is approximately 42 inches. It's important to note that this season has been extremely difficult. The town's accumulation outside of the storm on March 3rd had come in very small accumulations ranging from 3/4 of an inch to 3.5 inches. Some of these storms have long duration events, such as the storm of February 18th, where the town received 3.5 inches of snow over 32 hours. And then on February 6th, the town experienced sleet and freezing rain, which had a duration of over 9 hours. The superintendent proceeded to state that ultimately the small accumulating long-duration storms have had a dramatic effect on our operations, our staff, and ultimately the budget. It's important to note that our snow and ice operations are critical to public safety, protection of property from damage and personal injury. And Mr. Me stated he believes the Department of Public Works works very hard and has a positive reputation for applying proper snow and ice management techniques and managing the ever-changing weather conditions. That's what the superintendent had forwarded for correspondence with respect to the snow and ice as of March 6, exclusive of the replacement equipment line item for $80,000. The rest of the snow and ice budget is $1,320,000. We've got expenditures, encumbrances, or invoices that hadn't been encumbered, or requisitions that total a little shy of $1,360,000, or at this point a shortfall, if you will, of $39,407. Just as a reminder, there was a storm event this weekend. There wasn't any plowing, but there was materials that needed to be applied to the town streets. Just by way of background, interesting enough, a year ago tonight, if you will, on March 13th, the town council had voted the exact same resolution for allowing approving the excess expenditure for snow and ice removal pursuant to Chapter 4431D of the Mass General Laws. Subsequent to that event on middle of March last year, we did come back to the town council at the April 10th council meeting to fund a shortfall that was over $624,000 back for fiscal year 18. Just by way of background, some of the snow expenditures, the last three, fiscal year 18 was $1,874,000. Fiscal year 17 was another almost $1.9 million. So the expenditures to date are about $1,359,000. What we're respectively asking tonight, Mr. President, members of the council, is to authorize the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 31D, whereby the town may incur liability and make expenditures in excess of available appropriations for snow and ice removal for the remainder of the fiscal year. As it was raised a year ago, March, it would be the intent that we would address this deficit prior to the submission of the fiscal year 2020 budget, so that we would not have to raise that as an expenditure to fund it with fiscal year 20 monies. We'll be looking to do any shortfall with fiscal year 2019 money. So, Mr. President, members of the council, I ask you for a favorable consideration of the proposed resolution related to approving excess expenditures for snow and ice pursuant to Chapter 4431D of the Mass General Laws. Mr. President.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for excess expenditures for snow and ice removal.
Is there a second? Discussion. Council Feltner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple questions. I guess it seems that we do this every year, so is this a standard practice where you are generally optimistic and conservative and see how the season goes? And then I was just curious, I was wondering where we use sand still. Those are my two questions.
Mr. President, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
Where we still use sand in town, to be aware of where we use sand versus salt.
Yeah, maybe too.
Mr. President, Council, to answer your last question, no, we do not use sand. Reason being is we use salt. Reason being is it's proven that the sand actually is more intrusive. It silts up the borders and it silts up the catch basins. Proper use of salt, which we've talked about many times with the computer controls, is the approach we take.
And then, Mr. Manager, the first part of that was,
It seems like this is standard practice. Is it a standard practice where we are generally optimistic and anticipate coming forward later in the season? And I didn't have what the March 13th and April 10th amounts were last year.
Yeah,
Just
I
curious.
guess, well, a couple of points. We have, back when I first started doing this job, we had an appropriation of $208,000. So today's appropriation is $1.4 million. So we did increase it from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 19 from $1,250,000 to $1,400,000, with the thought we'd like to try to get it as close to what the appropriation would be. I mean, just by way of background, the best year I think all of us would have been fiscal year 2012, and that appropriation was the expenditures were $399,000. But that being said, just I'll provide, subsequent to that fiscal year 2012, of less than $400,000, we proceeded to have expenditures in fiscal year 2013 of $1.2 million, fiscal year 14 almost $1.7 million, fiscal year 15 was the all-time high of $2.2 million, and then fiscal year 16 was cut in half down to a little over $1 million. And then fiscal year 17 and 18, so the last 2 years have been close to $1.9 million. That's why we increased the appropriation from $1,250,000 to $1,400,000. You know, I will take some of the responsibility for going out of town last week to have the biggest snowstorm all winter. But in essence, as the superintendent pointed out, with all the numerous having over 20 separate snow and ice events. But it has come up fairly regularly, kind of a rite of spring, if you will. But the good news is that we have always managed the superintendent managing the public safety aspects of snow and ice removal, and then the town working with town council, we've been able to fund any deficit prior to the submission of next year's budget. So that will happen again this year. So I hope that answers your question.
Councilor Canellis.
Thank you. Certainly, I think it's important to give kudos when they're due. And for the DPW, kudos is certainly due when it comes to clearing snow and ice from our streets in the winter. I think we have the best DPW team when it comes to that practice. And it's certainly obvious. I'm right on the Belmont-Cambridge line, and I can certainly attest to it. So thank you very much to one and all. And I hope soon we'll be addressing the pothole issue. Thank you.
Councilor Bays.
I'm new to this, so I was kind of surprised with such a light, winter that we would be paying extra again this year. So I was just wondering, what is it about those particular storms that made them so expensive to?
Mr. President, councilors, this year is very, the impression that everyone has is that it has been a mild winter. Really hasn't been a mild winter from our point of view. There's many nights when everybody's asleep and we're up for the 7, 8, 9 hours to address a small event for freezing ice or freezing rain that comes in. And as I stated in my memo, when the manager stated, 32 hours for an event that gives you 3.5 inches of snow is a long duration. The accumulation doesn't come up. I would have been happy. It would have been easier to plow 20 inches of snow than it would have been that 3.5 inches, because the 20 inches of snow under normal conditions would have come in 10, 12, 14 hours, and you address it. So that makes it very difficult, very expensive. Many of these storms have fallen over the weekend, where our costs increase. One of the storms fell over the holiday as well, which increases all those costs. So all those issues combined add up to be a very expensive and very difficult winter. Not to mention our costs are increasing as we go through time. And, I think Watertown, we're fortunate, the council and the manager and the budget team have addressed the budget. It gives us a realistic number and allows us to do our job. And I think the manager stated it very clearly there. Providing the funding source to let us deal with the public safety is what we need and what we really want to do. I think Watertown has a very high level of service, and I think it shows every time anybody comes from any other community. But I will tell you that, years ago, we dealt with 2 deaths on the DCR roads. Our roads were black and treated well, and the DCR roads were not. That death registered in Watertown. We take the approach that we don't want any type of personal injury like that to be the result of us not acting properly, and that's why we act what I believe is properly, efficiently, and effective.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, too, because I live on one of the hills, and you keep it so that I don't slide all the way down it when I come out of my driveway.
Thank you. Council Falcoff.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Mee and then one for Mr. Driscoll. So, Mr. Mee, do you think that there was anything extra that you did that could have been, you could have economized in any place, or do you feel completely confident that everything you did was appropriate?
I think there's always, it's a foolish man that doesn't look back and see that there's something that could have been done better. And I think there always is. A couple things that come to mind is I think, we of the last couple of years have been wrestling with a number of other communities for our contractors. There's almost a wage war battle going back and forth. And, we pay a little bit more, but we have a lot less hours than some of the other communities that go through. That's something I'd like to do. I think one of the other issues we've talked long and hard over it is computer controls for the sanders and the trucks. Well, we got a great system. We work to it. We got all of our trucks fitted and equipped with it, and it's been failing us as of late, and we're moving into another system.
It's
and
been
I think
failing you.
Been failing as far as the calibration controls. And I think it actually becomes a cell phone. We're on the iPhone 6 now, and we need to be on the iPhone 7. It's continually upgrading into things.
Wait till 10.
The 10, well, we're always a little behind. But I think that's one thing that we're keeping a close watch on. I think we have great supervision of the contractors, when they're out there in the field. Our crews, our supervisors watch it very closely. I think we're effective. We've tried dealing with start times and trying to utilize a start time to get your contractor base in so it's ready for a rush hour storm is very difficult with the way the weather predictions have come. As you can probably remember, some of the weather forecasts, at least 2 of them didn't come as predicted. So, that's always cautious. So we're very cautious with that.
That's interesting about the computer calibration. Is it just that it's not a good system, or
Was a very good system, and we're finding out it's not supported as well as we thought it was. And some of the systems that come out, we're actually in the process of trying 2 of the new units right now in 2 of the new trucks. And fortunately, with the capital plan that's discussed there too, is that we have upgrading our fleet has been continuous, so those new controls will come in with the new vehicles as well.
Hope they work better,
I
but
hope
thank
so.
you for the answer. And then, Mr. Manager, in response to, I forget if it was Councilor Felton or Councilor Bays who asked this question about, isn't there something about state law that we average the last 4 years, and that's the amount we come up with? Or am I remembering that all wrong?
Well, Mr. President, perhaps the town auditor could speak to the municipal finance law that Ms. Falcott's raising.
Councilor, we typically provide during the budget hearings a spreadsheet that we show about 5 years, 6 years, 7-year average. But the law is that in order to enact this section of the law, we cannot have reduced the budget from the previous year.
Okay.
The budget, not the expenditure. So the budget of using the $1.4 million, the original budget, 1.4. Next year, the fiscal year 20 budget could not be lower than 1.4. If it was, we would not be able to enact
Regardless.
this section. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item is 7B, which is a first reading on a proposed ordinance to modify Hours of operation of the administration building. Mr. Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. As you indicated, it's a first reading. Just provide a brief, there'll be a public hearing 2 weeks from tonight, but this is just what we've been doing for 17 years, but the last 14 years from Memorial Day through Labor Day, we modify the hours of operation for the administration building, and then the last 2 years, or last year, and then this upcoming year, the senior center as well. Just by way of background, the hours that would be effective beginning on May 21 would be for 15 Tuesdays. The hour of operation would be 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the Fridays would be, the 15 Fridays would be 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays will remain 8:30 to 5. Again, Mr. President, members of council, this would be subject to an advertisement, a public hearing on March 26, and certainly will provide an update, if you will, a presentation in advance of the public hearing for moving forward with modifying the administration hours from beginning the Memorial Day through Labor Day, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item is committee reports, and 8A is a committee and budget and fiscal oversight report regarding the capital improvement program. Councilor Picciarelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a 7-page report. We had 3 meetings on February 4th, February 11th, and February 19th. Myself as the chair, Councilor Canellis is the vice chair, and Councilor Woodland is the secretary. Staff members, school people, members of the public, other councilors had attended. I'm not going to read the first 3 pages because that pretty much just goes through what we discussed in the meetings. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to go right to page 4 and review the and read the recommendations. So the first recommendation is to, number 1, confirm the prior recommendations to proceed with the fiscal year 16 proposed loan order for $900,000 from Moxley Court renovations and lighting, subject to the condition that the Recreation Department shall hold community meetings to develop a design proposal and have 1 or more informational presentations to the Town Council. Number 2, confirm the prior recommendations to proceed with the fiscal year 17 proposed loan order for $950,000 for improvements to Casey Park baseball area, subject to the condition that the Recreation Department shall hold community meetings to develop a design proposal and have 1 or more informational presentations to the Town Council. Number 3, recommend to proceed with the fiscal year 17 loan order for Victory Field Phase 2 for $3 million in accordance with the final report of the Ad Hoc Committee on Victory Field Phase 2 dated June 28, 2018, as approved by the Town Council on August 14, 2018. Number 4, proceed with the fiscal year 18 proposed loan order for $900,000 for the Filipello Park field lights and scoreboard upgrades, subject to the condition that the Recreation Department shall hold community meetings to develop a design proposal and have 1 or more informational presentations to the Town Council. Number 5, proceed with the fiscal year 18 proposed loan order for $385,000 for the administration building. Number 6, proceed with the fiscal year 18 proposed loan order for $325,000 for the community path design from Saltonstall Park to Taylor Street, subject to coordination with the parking meter upgrades in the municipal parking lots and policy guidance from the Public Works Committee. Number 7, proceed with the fiscal year 18 proposed loan order for $120,000 for library improvements to replace the sliding doors. Number 8, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order of $2.5 million for street and sidewalk projects for summer of 2019 in accordance with the Public Works Committee report approved by the Town Council on January 8, 2019. Number 9, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $1.5 million for the 3 elementary school projects plan and design. Number 10, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $877,000 for public works equipment consisting of a highway skid steer, a 48,000 gross vehicle weight dump truck, a snow and ice 6-wheel combo body truck, a snow and ice front loader blower attachment, a Parks and Forestry farm tractor, a Parks and Forestry infield groomer. Number 11, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $593,000 for school improvements, consisting of $288,000 for middle school renovations to girls' locker rooms and bathrooms to be funded with a loan order, increased from the original estimate last year, and $140,000 for HVAC upgrades and $165,000 for an emergency generator for the Phillips School to be funded with a loan order subject to further study of the building as it relates to the high school feasibility study. Number 12, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $300,000 for Salt Stall Park lighting improvements, subject to the condition that the Recreation Department shall hold community meetings to develop a design proposal and have one or more informational presentations to the Town Council. Number 13, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $300,000 for underground duct for municipal use in conjunction with the fiscal year 19 loan order for street and sidewalk projects. Number 14, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $247,400 for police equipment, consisting of a mobile data system replacement and the installation of 1.5 miles of communication cable. Number 15, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $215,000 for administration building improvements, consisting of fire alarm system replacement and air conditioning and plumbing upgrades. Number 16, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $155,000 for fire station improvements, consisting of East Station HVAC and plumbing upgrades and the main station apparatus bay floor recoating. Number 17, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed loan order for $25,000 for skating rink improvements for a new public address system. Number 18, concur with the decision to proceed with the Building for the Future initiative of $170 million for the 3 elementary school project funding within the confines of Proposition 2.5, and to not proceed with the $5.3 million for renovation projects for the Cunniff, Hosmer, and Lowell schools as shown in the CIP as new building or renovated building projects. Number 19, concur with the decision to proceed with the Building for the Future initiative using proposed debt exclusion funding for the MSBA high school project for $157 million, and to not proceed with the $14.1 million for renovation projects for the high school as shown in the CIP as school to be determined. Number 20, there's only 29, so just hang in there. Number 20, concur with the school department's decision to remove $61,000 for Hosmer School painting from the fiscal year 20 CIP. This will be done in the operating budget at the end of the year. Number 21, concur with the school department's decision to remove $17,000 for the middle school air conditioning feasibility study from the fiscal year 20 CIP. This will also be done in the operating budget at the end of the year. Number 22, concur with the school department's decision to move $99,000 for the Phillips School Boiler Number 1 replacement from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 21. Number 23, proceed with the school department's revised fiscal year 20 capital appropriation request of $1,182,500 for projects as shown in the CIP, including $488,500 for various projects to be funded with tax revenues, a proposed loan order for middle school renovations totaling $694,000, including $99,000 for remodeling bathrooms, $295,000 for renovations to boys' locker rooms and bathrooms, $152,000 to replace classroom laminated floors, $95,000 to replace boilers, and $53,000 for design of a new fire protection system. Number 24, proceed with the fiscal year 19 MWRA sewer inflow and infiltration local financial assistance program for $1,050,000, consisting of $787,500 grant and a $262,500 interest-free loan, plus proceed with the fiscal year 19 MWRA local water system assistance program of $500,000 interest-free loan in order to replace outdated unlined cast iron water mains. Number 25, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed sewer enterprise fund loan order for $270,000 for a heavy-duty crane. Number 26, proceed with the fiscal year 19 proposed water enterprise loan order for $60,000 for a utility truck. Number 27, refer to the Public Works Committee for policy guidance, plans for the fiscal year 20 $2.5 million loan order for local road construction projects in the summer of 2020, plus plans for the fiscal year 20 $1.5 million loan order for connector roads and longer street projects in accordance with Resolution 2013-76, Watertown's ongoing capital project budget guidelines. Number 28, regarding Arsenal Park, for the fiscal year 20 proposed loan order for $250,000 for design, proceed subject to the condition that the Department of Community Development and Planning, in conjunction with the Conservation Commission and the Recreation Department, shall hold community meetings to ensure that the work is consistent with the improvements proposed as part of the developer mitigation, and have one or more informational presentations to the Town Council. And for the fiscal year 20 proposed loan order for $4.3 million for renovations, proceed subject to the condition that the developer mitigation and proposed I-Cube funds will offset a portion of the cost as planned. And finally, number 29, remove the $5 million Watertown Square structured parking if the current parking study does not contain this as a recommendation. So those are the two things, and there was two action items which we'll address separately. So that's the report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Councilor Canellis.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Councilor Piccirilli for putting so much effort into our meetings prior to commencing the meeting to assist us in running a smooth meeting, and during the meeting, and certainly after the fact of compiling all of this information for us in such a timely and concise manner. And I think he just makes it so much easier for the committee, and I think that my colleague, Councilor Woodland, would certainly attest to that, and Councilor Woodland certainly adds the dynamic to our committee, and I think it's wonderful, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilor Palumbo.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work also. I just have a couple of quick questions, and there's a attachment, in attachment A that the town manager presented. There were 4 pages that reviewed the funding from different fiscal years that we are going to incorporate in it this year. And then Mr. Tracy attached attachment F, which lists remaining FY16 through 19, fiscal year 19 loan orders. Am I to understand that these are complementary to each other, or are the ones on the pages that on attachment F things that we're not going to do? Or can I just ask how they relate to each other?
Mr. President, through you, Counselor, I think the attachment F, which is the list of the loan orders from 16 to 19, are also included in a lot of the items that Councilor Piccirilli just ran through.
Some of them are included, some of them are not.
No, I think all of those are.
And are
yes.
they the same as the ones that Council President,
The attachment
town manager put in his 4 pages on attachment A?
Yes.
He had 4 pages.
Yes.
They're corresponding.
Absolutely.
Okay. Could I have just a question to the town manager? I always ask this, and I always try to, I think it's in attachment A. I just would like to know if we did pass this, as we usually do, what is the, I assume it's over here on forecasted where you change some figures, but if someone was to ask me how much are we borrowing in fiscal 2020, in the upcoming fiscal year, how much do we plan on borrowing, and what is the interest on that borrowing? Where exactly might I find that?
I would, you could use the attachment the attachment A.
Right.
You could use the absolute dollars, but the spreadsheet that's kind of, that I think was included within the document, and I'm not sure which, it's kind of a eye chart special that Mr. Tracy puts together. You could actually see, if you wanted and the document, the attachment A, would show you the dollar amounts that we would have, and if you want, if I could walk through it real quickly, let me get to it. The attachment A, the very first page, we would have, so the question to Council Plumber, if he were posed, would be, just quickly looking at that, the first two numbers, the $5,337,000 and the $515,000, that's permanent, so we're already borrowed for that. So we're already, paying those bonds back. We went to bond market. Then the next dollar amounts, the street and sidewalk planned of the $1,352,000, the 3 elementary school project planned for fiscal year 2020 of $411,000, and then other planned and authorized would be $1,863,000. So if you added those three numbers up, say $1,350,000, $1,750,000, and another $1,009,000, it'd be like $3,650,000 would be the amount of money borrowed, either temporary or permanently, but that includes both principal and interest.
So that is all the money we're borrowing this year in 2000?
In fiscal, that we would be borrowing, or the monies that we'd be, we'd be borrowing more monies. If you go out and borrow something that's gonna cost $1 million, you're not gonna be paying principal and interest for the $1 million. Those would be the principal and interest payments in fiscal year 20, would be adding those three numbers, the $1,003,000,
Yep.
the $411,000, and the $1,863,000. Those would be the principal payments or interest due in fiscal year 20.
Right, what amount of money? What is the amount of money that you're going to bond to borrow?
What that, we could send that back out to you, but I don't have that at
That's
the
what
tip.
I was trying to...
So,
Okay.
but we'll forward that along about how much money it would be, but those would be the principal and
Principal
interest
on it for that fiscal year.
on those borrowings.
Thank you. Can I ask?
Yes, yes.
I just wanted the recommendations that Councilor Picciarelli and the committee made. I just want to be clear that the issue on concurring with the school, the recommendations of the building for the future, that we're not saying that the council, by passing this, are we saying that the council approves $170 million for the building for the future? We haven't seen the budget as a council. We're not saying that we're approving that, are we? Or are we?
No, we're not. That would be a completely separate issue in front of the council.
Right.
This is concurring with the school building committee's recommendation that we move forward with this.
Okay.
The manager has yet to prepare what's going to be needed to fund that.
And we're also concurring that.
Yes.
With the potential of a debt exclusion. That's what we're also concurring with that. But that's all we're doing at this point, by passing this.
Correct.
Yes. If I could just clarify to that. So if you look in the CIP that was submitted, it had, and if you look at what the school department, and I want to recognize Heidi is here from the school department, the school department put in projects sort of from a full transparency standpoint, and again, if you look at the attachment of the school presentation, so that if, on the assumption that, let's suppose the town council votes not to proceed with the $170 million, which we have to do as a loan order with a two-thirds vote, or let's suppose that the debt exclusion fails and we don't proceed with the MSBA program. So what the school department did is they identified projects that would need to be done in those 4 schools if we don't do that. So so the consensus was that, we're not going to budget for both the building a new school and renovating the school is going to be torn down. So we said, let's budget for the assumption that we're going to proceed with the projects and we're not going to do these renovations to the old buildings. But of course, we need to, for a sense of transparency to the public, we want to make them aware that if we don't proceed with building renovating the 3 new elementary schools, we are going to be, $5.3 million is going to need to be spent within that next couple of years to bring the schools up to a certain level. So that's just, and again, when I say concur, because that was the discussion that the school department had and we had, and we were all in agreement with that. There's a lot that still needs to be done in terms of actually proceeding.
Excuse me. I assume that. I just, given the word concur, I just got a little, wasn't, just, sorry.
Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Feltner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry. Kind of on a similar vein, on some of these items that seem rather prescriptive, where others are clearly conceptual recommendations. So I guess a similar question in terms of flexibility, whether it's designs for Casey Park or Arsenal Park, since the mitigation hasn't really clearly been identified yet by the developer. These are conceptual recommendations, priorities that we see on the horizon. Is that's correct? And they'll be coming back before council, whether it's design or loan orders.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilor Bays.
I'm just wondering what's going on with all the parks. Like, why are we doing 6 parks and all of a sudden? I'm just curious why we're doing all these parks right now, like why it's coming up for one, instead of spreading out the parks and redoing them, one at a time.
If you want to just, I can answer that briefly. So if you go back the last 10 years, the parks have been sort of spread out evenly. And you'll see that the loan orders go back for a number of years, but what's really been holding it up is sort of the public input part of the design. So, so if you look at Victory Field, for example, that was a fiscal year 17 loan order, but that's just been a placeholder and it's just been sliding along every year. We're not going to spend the money, the council isn't going to vote to appropriate money to proceed with the project till we get something that the councils are going to be satisfied with. So they actually are spread out, and if you look at the CIP going over for the next 5 years, there are projects spread out every year. But the parks tend to be one of those things where a lot of public input is desired, and a lot of public input leads to a long time in finalizing the designs.
Are there any other questions? And I'm going to just ask everyone that if your questions are, we're actually just talking about the report. The next action item would be, but again, that's okay. I let it go, but the town attorney's trying to rein me back in, as he should. Thank you. Councilor Falcoff.
This is about the report. I appreciate that the committee is very hardworking, and also that a lot of work is done before it even gets to the committee. But given that, I'm just wondering if any of the issues were contentious or divisive, and if so, it should have been reflected in the report, so I'm asking about the report.
Vice President Piccioni.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will, if you read the first 3 pages of the report, we sort of went through the issues. They really, and again, I will defer to my 2 fellow committee members. There really wasn't anything contentious, and the very nature of this is a 5-year rolling thing, so many of the things that we're discussing we knew about years in advance, and they slowly kind of creep up on us. So there really wasn't anything that I would consider contentious this year, and it seemed to flow pretty smoothly. And there was close to 400 line items in the CIP that we sort of went through. And there's a lot of work, and I really do want to commend the committee, Angie and Kenny, working on this, and as well as Tom and the manager, for putting a lot of work in this. But it's we just sort of grind through it, line by line, and I would say there really was nothing contentious this year.
Any other questions or comments? Ken?
Just
Councilor Woodland.
Just to add to that, doesn't matter.
Sorry.
As Councilor Petrelli said, a lot of this is historical. These are things we've been looking at for 3-4 years. These are things that we addressed on the council level or on a committee level multiple times. None of these issues are new to us. And I think, I don't want to speak for Councilor Canellis, but I know at least for myself that if I have a disagreement that could be described as contentious on the committee level, it is traditionally reflected in the report, and I traditionally bring it up thereafter. So the lack of that is probably good evidence that I didn't have any.
Councilor Canellis.
Thank you, and I will certainly echo the comments of my colleague, Councilor Woodland, and those who know me understand that I'm not afraid to speak up or to ask the difficult questions, and there really weren't any. And if there were, you would see my comments so noted in the report, and there would be a big no, but there wasn't. So I'm comfortable with everything that was set forward in the report.
Can I say thank
Any
you?
other comments? Mr. Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And certainly, I lost an opportunity to speak. The town council had voted to allow the submission of the fiscal year 20 to 24 capital improvement program 9 days. So normally we would be submitting this at the January 22nd council meeting, but due to the scheduling of the school building committee meeting on Wednesday, January 23rd, the council in the wisdom had put it back off to January 31. And I think it's kind of important to point out all of the 29 conceptual recommendations are very important, but I wanted to, I think it's important to put in kind of context to the big picture. And this is a 5-year fiscal year 20 to 24 capital improvement program that totals $503,174,500, which is about $370,300,000 higher than it was 5 years ago. And what represents 90%, almost 90% of that increase, and Councilor Palumbo raised that earlier, was the 3 elementary school project to $170 million, and then the high school project, which should be on a debt exclusion track, if you will, for $157 million. But it's a very exciting time, but I think it's important to point out, taking a step back, that during the fiscal year 2020 preliminary budget overview, I had indicated the school building committee had been working tirelessly to review conceptual design options for the 3 elementary schools in an effort to ultimately select a preferred design option is in the best interest of the town, the taxpayers, and the successful education of our children. And to that end, the school building committee members, and 2 of them are sitting here tonight, the council president and the vice president, met 20 times starting back on March 14th of this year and held three community forums at each of the 3 elementary schools in November of 18 to receive feedback on the various conceptual design options. On January 23rd, the school building committee adopted a motion that was and referred the conceptual and schematic design and cost estimate to me for consideration within the fiscal year 20 to 24 capital improvement program. That endorsed conceptual and schematic design included all new construction at the Hosmer and Cuniff schools, comprehensive renovation additions to the Lowell School. The proposed projects create modern, forward-thinking facilities and associated site amenities that meet the educational, neighborhood energy efficiency, and recreational goals established through a public process of meetings and forums. These projects are part of a long-term vision of providing outstanding education, recreation, and healthy neighborhoods throughout Watertown, who will serve the town for many decades. The approximately $170 million cost estimate for the 3 elementary schools includes the total project costs representative of the building, site work, furniture, technology, and all the associated costs of the completed and occupied buildings. So to the earlier about conceptual recommendation that Councilor Palumbo raised, in the fiscal year 20 to 24 CIP, we have funding of the $170 million for the 3 elementary schools within the 5-year capital improvement program, and all of this project would be done within the confines of Proposition 2.5. Now, what the council president indicated, that the conceptual recommendations, if they're adopted, council will certainly be having presentations for actually voting the money, voting to move forward. So the conceptual recommendations, but the money, and I repeat again, that $170 million would be financed within the confines of Proposition 2.5. And in my mind, between the administration, town council, and this community working very hard, it's something that everyone should be very proud of. There's going to be a significant challenge. We haven't even talked about the high school, but 3 elementary schools, it's a very exciting time. We're on the cusp of doing that. It's very helpful that the unfunded pension liability is going to be coming to being paid for, and the wisdom of a lot of folks sitting in here and for many years allowing us to do that. So it is, the conceptual recommendation will be there, the financing in there, but just as the President alluded to, we will be coming back for further financing of a lot of the proposed projects. The one other item that I think is important to point out within this 5-year capital improvement program is the street and sidewalk improvements. Council adopted an action item looking for, to put in monies for collective roads and longer streets, and we've included monies in that 5-year capital improvement program. The fiscal year 20 to 24 capital improvement program includes 5 years of loans at $23.9 million. And in summary, beginning back in fiscal year 13 and continuing through fiscal year 2024, the Honorable Town Council has or is planning on authorizing loan orders for streets and sidewalks totaling $43.6 million over those 12 fiscal years. Again, the magic words, all within the confines of Proposition 2.5. So those are kind of 2 big pictures. I'm not getting into the conceptual recommendations are all there, but this is an exciting time for Watertown, the capital improvement program. And I'd be remiss, there's been a lot of compliments and the committee working hard, council working hard, but prior to submitting it, Mr. Tracy, the town auditor, and the assistant town manager for finance, and our town treasurer collector, Nancy Heffron, spent a lot of time putting it together. So I think it's been a collaborative effort, the administration working with council, but those are 2 key issues that I didn't have a chance to speak on January 22nd, Mr. President, so thank you for letting me speak about it tonight, because I think it's critical the community hears it. So thank you.
And I just want to add that 3 additional members of the school building committee are in the audience this evening. So we have quite a few people that are here that had something to say about the projects. So thank you. Any other comments on the report? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. First action item, Council Picciarelli.
For the town council to adopt the 29 conceptual recommendations as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Action item number 2, please.
This motion that the town council recommends that the town manager maintain the fiscal year 2020 capital spending so it does not exceed 8% of the submitted fiscal year 2020 operating budget in order to meet the town council's budget policy guideline that the town should seek to make capital expenditures, including debt and exclusive of the school building for the future initiative funding and enterprise funds, equal to at least 7.5% to 8% of the operating budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the committee for their efforts. And every year it seems to grow, as the manager pointed out. There's a $300+ million difference than it was several years ago. And thank you to the staff, the manager, Mr. Tracy, and Nancy, and others that put the work together. And, you know, every department that works in this community puts together something. Most of them put together, including, you know, Public Works, for what they're looking for needs to maintain the services that we have. So thank you, everyone, for their efforts on this. It's an important document. 8B is a Committee on Federal, State, and Regional Government report regarding airplane noise abatement. Councilor Cornelis.
Thank you. First, I'd like to acknowledge my committee Counselor Feltner and Counselor Donato for their commitment and for Counselor Donato's diligent work on preparing the report for us this evening, so thank you. The committee convened at 7 p.m. on Monday, February the 25th. Present were myself as chair, Counselor Feltner vice chair, and Counselor Donato as secretary. Present also were staff member Andrea Adams, senior planner, community development and planning department, Watertown representative to the Massport Community Advisory Committee, Massport CAC. State Senator Will Brownsberger, State Representative John Hecht, and members of the public. The sign-in sheet is attachment A. The purpose of the meeting was for further review and consideration of the Massport CAC work to address airplane noise pursuant to a referral made at the February 12th, 2019 Town Council meeting. The committee referral is attachment B. Councilor Kunellis informed those present that there have been many meetings held since 2013 about the work done by the Logan Airport Community Advisory Committee and its successor, Massport CAC, regarding the impact of increased airplane overflight noise caused by the implementation of the Area Navigation Method, RNAV, at Logan Airport. The first meeting was held by the Committee on State, Federal, and Regional Government on December the 2nd, 2013, and the most recent meeting was hosted by Councilor Kunellis, State Senator Brownsberger, State Representative Hecht on July 25th, 2017 at the apartments at Coolidge School. Ms. Adams provided some background information of the Massport CAC, which was created by an act of the Massachusetts Legislature on 2015. Its statutory charges are: 1, make recommendations to the Massachusetts Port Authority, Massport, on its budgets. 2, hold hearings on matters related to Massport. 3, review and comment on Massport's annual report. 4, examine Massport's records. And 5, make recommendations to the governor and legislature relative to Massport. Ms. Adams spoke to the committee about a report prepared by the Massport CAC by Dr. R. John Hansman from MIT International Center for Air Transportation. Dr. Hansman was tasked with collecting data and evaluating community input and baseline conditions for both pre- and post-RNAV time periods to identify candidate procedure modifications at Logan Airport to address the issue of airplane overflight noise. Dr. Hansman updated the Massport CAC about his findings on October 22, 2018. Dr. Hansman investigated different methods to address the RNAV impacts for specific runways, such as runway 33L, which is the runway that most directly impacts Watertown, particularly with regard to departing flights. Excerpts from Dr. Hansman's presentation relative to the current situation in Watertown can be found in Attachment B, the committee referral. Dr. Hansman's presentation provided 4 possible methods for addressing the airplane overflight noise. At the time of Dr. Hansman's presentation, the leading candidate was the divergent heading dispersion method. This method entails each aircraft computer locking on to an electronic beacon in Medford and/or Somerville and then gauging the future flight track of the aircraft based on the next electronic beacon as well as the headings of any other aircraft on the same track. Then, based on a predetermination method, each aircraft would vary its future heading in a controlled manner, creating a dispersion of the aircraft versus the current RNAV tracks. Ms. Adams anticipated that she and other Massport CAC representatives would be asked for a group recommendation at the Massport CAC meeting to be held in March 2019 regarding the preferred candidate method to address airplane overflight noise associated with RNAV. However, Ms. Adams reported that the Massport CAC needs more information and that Dr. Hansman is continuing his research with regard to the 4 possible methods for addressing the airplane overflight noise. Ms. Adams, State Senator Brownsberger, and State Representative Heck all noted that work done with regard to dispersion must be undertaken in a collaborative manner because decreases of airplane overflight noise in Watertown or in one part of Watertown will result in increases of the same in other communities or within other parts of Watertown. Ms. Adams anticipates the need for a subsequent committee meeting to review any supplemental data that will allow the committee and the full town council to make an informed decision and recommendation to Massport and the FAA regarding the preferred candidate method to address airplane overflight noise associated with RNAV. Ms. Adams will provide the committee with an update after the March meeting of the Massport CAC. Councilor Donato made a motion, seconded by Councilor Feltner, to adjourn. The motion passed unanimously. The meeting adjourned at 8:03 p.m. There is no action item at this time, and the report was prepared by Councilor Anthony Donato. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on the report?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion? Councilor Feltner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to know that during the meeting, it was specifically discussed and noted that Ms. Andrea Adams was going to suggest, excuse me, or request the town manager's office to either do a newsflash or email or put some more prominent notice on our website because they want more reports coming in from residents, and residents were under the impression we weren't supposed to be reporting anymore. They weren't sure, and both John Hecht and Will Brownsberger confirmed that yes, we do want more, so.
I understand, but there's no action item that requested that. So unfortunately, the committee will have to, at the next meeting, if that was something to discuss, then they will take that up.
Well,
Councilor Canellis?
Thank you. If I may, subsequent to the meeting, Ms. Adams sent us all an email indicating that she had revised the town website in regard to the reporting method, making it a little bit clearer that the information was available and it still is appropriate to be contacting Massport, and gave the appropriate information to do so.
Any other comments? Yes.
so thank you. Yeah, I just, again, was saying it was a great meeting, it was a good discussion, and it was greatly encouraged for people that their reporting is needed and welcome, and that wasn't really an action item for the committee. That was something that Andrea Adams was doing with the administration.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. New business. Any new business to come before the council? Seeing none, communications from the town manager, and one item is a request for confirmation of appointment to the Board of Election Commissioners. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Town Council, tonight I'm bringing forward a request for appointment to the Board of Election Commissioners, which requires council confirmation. The appointment would be as follows: Mr. Adam Brewster from 17 Commonwealth Road, number 2, to a term to run to April 1 of 2023. This appointment tonight would be to fill the expiring term of Ms. Bonnie Baranowski, who has decided not to seek another term as an election commissioner. Ms. Baranowski has served as an election commissioner since 2008, has served the town very well, and I very much appreciate all of Bonnie's efforts since 2008. But again, Mr. President, under the council rules, this request for confirmation of the appointment would be referred to the Committee on State and Federal Regional Government for their review and report back to the full town council. Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything additional?
No, sir.
Request for information. Councilor Canellis.
Thank you. On Friday, March the 8th, I submitted a request for information to Mr. Magoon and to the Health Director, Larry Ramden. It's pertaining to the utility poles And you may have all noticed the X markings that are on the poles, some with white and some with red. I received a query from a resident, and I sent off this request, and I will read it into the record and submit it to our council clerk. As noted in the two attachments, within the past 2 months, utility poles in Watertown have been tagged with an X markings to denote each pole for treatment to prevent rotting or pole replacement. It has been brought to my attention that the pole treatment process has started in the Laurel Street area. Residents have voiced concerns as to why notification was not provided by the town or the vendor to inform of the pending use of solvents and/or chemicals in the neighborhood. It is my understanding there is a strong odor associated with the application of the product. Please advise any and all types of materials in use and safety implications for residents and the environment. Thank you.
Any other requests? Councilor Feltner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two requests. The first is I wanted confirmation of what Oakley Country Club's current contribution is for payments in lieu of taxes, and please include historical information. The second is I recently became aware that our upgraded Civic Plus technology is not compatible with the Watertown Free Public Library website. This directly contradicts what we were promised throughout the process of web redesign and functionality. We were led to believe that this technology, as implemented, would not only be easier to work with, but it would improve the communication for our town. I am appalled that using Civic Plus has broken something that was working with a library. I would want to know how and when the administration is going to remedy the situation, as this is not a trivial matter, and it is not acceptable that in working to improve our website and pay for an upgraded redesign, we have worsened the engagement and communication ability for taxpayers and staff in Watertown. Thank you.
Any other requests? Councilor Palumbo.
I'm going to put this out as I think, like a request, but it's also sort of a statement, if I might. I wanted to know when the town might be replying to what I thought was a very rude and out of unnecessary communication from Boylston Properties that we recently read on the miscellaneous items. I found the letter to be quite disturbing and threatening in many ways to our staff here in the town. And I'm wondering when and how we might be replying to that. It was, I thought, really outside the realm of what should be happening between a developer and the town. And I really felt that the threat was not in order at all.
Thank you. Any other requests? Announcements. I have one announcement. The council voted to, upon a recommendation from the Media and Outreach Committee, to bring Everbridge to do an informational presentation in March. They were not available to do either of the March meetings. They will be here at our first meeting in April. So that's where that stands, because there was a council vote. Council Palumbo on announcements.
Yes, just one quick one. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the Committee on Human Services will hold another meeting on affordable housing. If you're interested in sort of listening to some of our potential recommendations, that would be the meeting to attend at 7 o'clock downstairs in the Payne Conference Room.
Any other? Councilor Bays.
I just wanted to announce that on March 20th from 6 to 8:30 p.m., the well-being of Watertown youth with the peer leader Improbable Players will be performing a skit and then engage in a discussion about things that are concerning Watertown youth. Again, that'll be at the Watertown Library in the Savings Bank room at 6 o'clock on March 20th. Also, the Friends of Watertown Music is putting on the 8th Annual Music Fest, and the fundraiser will be Friday, March 22nd from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. at the middle school. And there'll be tons of musicians all over Watertown. Were you going to announce that?
Any other announcements? Counselor Felton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Plug for Saturday, March 23rd from 10 to noon at the Watertown Free Public Library in the Watertown Savings Bank Room. Chris Hayward, our tree warden, along with Ed Lewis, will be leading several groups in a symposium about climate change and the importance of trees, and it's open to the public, and hope everyone can make it.
Any other, Counselor Canellis?
Thank you. Boylston Properties will be hosting a second meeting to discuss Building G on March the 19th at 6:30 p.m., and the meeting at this time is going to be held at the Marriott Residence Inn and not at their property on Arsenal Street. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Public forum, any member of the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.